people will have no choice but to go and be wage slaves to big corporate companies. Small businesses will shut down more and more. Their number will get less and less. This is exactly what I feared when COVID started and they shut down the economy. I was telling everybody that this is an attack on small businesses, on our freedoms and our liberties. And this is an attempt to take our freedoms, economic freedoms, away from us. And we're seeing that now happening in Canada with small businesses. Small businesses in Canada are very important. I myself am a contractor. That's why I'm talking about this. I'm in construction industry. I own a small business. And for Canadians, small businesses, it's the backbone of this country. 98% of businesses in Canada are small businesses, and they're the biggest employers in Canada. Small businesses account for 40% of Canadian GDP, and they employ many millions of people. In 2019, small businesses were employing 68% of total private labor force. 68%. Now this percentage has gone down in 2023. Medium-sized businesses were employing 2.4 million individuals, and big corporate businesses were employing 1.4 million people. Now let's keep in mind that small businesses in Canada employed 68% in 2019. This number changed in 2023 after COVID. The money printing started. The Liberal government printed a lot of money. Most people in Canada, they were happy to take the money and run away with the money without realizing what they're doing is basically they're selling their liberty and freedoms to the government, to the Trudeau agenda, to the globalist agenda. When they take the money and run away, they're selling their liberty. They're taking the bread, the devil's bread. Instead, some people chose fear side, and they ended up listening and believing the narrative that the globalists were throwing at people during the COVID shutdowns, believing that if they just stay home for a week, everything will get better. We saw it was all a lie. It was more than a year. Many businesses in Canada, specifically small businesses, ended up getting shut down, and a lot of businesses failed. In 2019, 68% of Canadian workforce was working in small businesses. Now, if we go look at the 2023 numbers, we'll see that in 2023, the number of Canadian businesses that were employing, the percentage of workforce went down from 68% to 63%. What happened after COVID is small businesses started shutting down, started employing less workforce, and big businesses, big corporations that had over 500 employees ended up having higher profits. Actually, big corporations in Canada are now having, after COVID, they're having record amounts of profits, and more labor force is migrating to work for big corporates, for big corporations. So the tendency that we're seeing in Canada now is we're seeing the labor force, the small businesses shutting down and moving to corporate, big corporations. And basically in many areas and industries, small businesses are getting shut down and monopolies are being formed where people are losing their freedom to create, to sell their labor in the free market, and they have to go for work for a corporation, basically be a wage laborer, basically be a wage slave to a corporate entity, because they can't survive anymore in Canada as a free man, basically, as a person that's selling their wage in the free market, because the Liberal government has created so many rules, so much taxation, so many hurdles on Canadian small businesses that people are shutting down, and there's lack of demand in many areas now in businesses, and all these factors are affecting interests, inflation. They're affecting small businesses and they're shutting down. Now, small businesses were asked what are the main problems they're facing, and rising inflation was one of them, which was caused by the Liberal government printing money during COVID when they shut down the whole country when there was no need to shut down Canada. Rise of cost of inputs, which is again caused by the government, rising interest rates and debt costs, again caused by the government. All the issues that we're seeing that are facing small businesses, which is majority of Canadians, are caused by the government. Because in Canada now we don't have free market. We basically have authoritarian style regime of governance where free market is heavily regulated by the Liberal government. If we look at this article now, Canadian businesses closures surge, fused business openings since lockdowns. This is a proof now of what I'm saying. Canadian businesses see the sharpest decline in years. Canada just saw the largest downtick of active business operating since the pandemic. There was 0.8 drop to 985,000 active businesses in June. This is pretty big, guys. About 0.4 lower than last year. It was the fewest active businesses operating since March 2022. Canadian businesses are closing at an accelerated rate. Canada is seeing businesses shutter at a faster clip than usual. Closures climbed 3.5% in June in 2023 to 45,000 businesses being closed. A whopping 14% more were closed same month than last year. It was the most significant month for business closures since February 2022. And this is the chart. If we look, more businesses are being closed in Canada now in June of last year 2023 than they were being opened. As we can see, the trend in Canada is going towards small businesses being closed. This is a chart of the corporate profits versus labor costs. Now, this line, the line that's going up is basically unit profit cost of corporations, and it's going up. The unit labor cost is going up, but the unit profit cost, meaning per dollar profit for corporations, has been breaking record levels in Canada since after the pandemic. Liberal Trudeau government printed COVID money and gave to the population. All that money that was given to the people, to the consumers, ended up going to the big corporations, as these consumers ended up spending this money in shops, buying food, etc. And the corporations ended up having record-breaking profit during and after COVID. Now, this record-breaking profit is the reason why in Canada we have large inflation rate. The printing of COVID money is the reason why in Canada now we have rising inflation rate, problems, debts, and small businesses are in trouble, who are now being asked to pay their CEBA money that they were given by the Trudeau government. So the trend that we will see going on from now in Canada, which is very sad, is small businesses will shut down more and more. Their number will get less and less. Corporate profits will get higher and break more records. Corporations will gain bigger slice of in many industries, and in many industries will end up having monopolies, corporate monopolies, where small businesses virtually will not exist, and people will have no choice but to go and be wage slaves to big corporate companies and accept the wage that they offer them. This is truly losing economic freedom. In Canada, that's what's happening currently. Is Canadians are losing their economic freedom